Are you seeking fulfillment for your life? Do you want freedom from fear? That's why we're here. Welcome to Jesus 101, introducing you to the real Jesus. And now, here's your host, Elizabeth Talbot.
Welcome back to our series, Chosen, Trusting God's Purpose for My Life. Today we have a very interesting topic. And before we go there, I want to show you an actual replica of the Liberty Bell. In Philadelphia, there is this bell that most of you know about. And this is a little tiny replica of this bell that has a crack. And did you know that there is a verse on this bell? It says Leviticus 25:10. And this verse says, liberty for all the inhabitants of the earth. And this is why the bell is called the Liberty Bell, is because of that verse. Well, this is a very interesting law that they used to have, the laws of redemption, and how on the Jubilee, which was every 50 years, 7 times 7, 49 years, on the Day of Atonement, the Jubilee would start, and all the land went back to its original owner, no matter what had happened, how you had lost it. It was part of the laws of redemption, and I'm so proud that the Liberty Bell has this reminder that God actually is the owner of everything, and He just lends it to us. We are sojourners with Him in this journey called life, and they had every 50 years this going back to the original family. And we still have it in our bell. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you have a system and the system seems like it has a ceiling that you just can't go over. I have a book here that I really highly recommend. It's called Daughters of Grace by Trudy Morgan Cole. And it starts like this. Have you ever heard the expression, you can't fight City Hall? We usually use it to mean that you can't fight forces that are too strong for you. Government, bureaucracy, a system that's set in its ways. It can apply to futile attempts to create change in your community or your workplace, etc., etc. So I didn't know because, I'm a foreigner, even though I'm in the United States for 32 years. I didn't know that when somebody says you can't fight City Hall, it means that you have reached like a glass ceiling. So I brought a glass. So I don't know if you ever felt that you have hit a glass ceiling. That you have worked hard, whether it's in your community or workplace or in your school or whatever, and that there's no way you're going to beat this. Well, if you have ever felt like that, and I have many times, today we have a very special story in the Bible that we're going to be studying. And most people don't know this story. As a matter of fact, I have to confess that until I came to ministry 16 years ago, I had never heard of this story that is in the Bible. I don't know why. And it's the daughters of Zelophehad. Now, in this book that I said I highly recommend, there are beautiful illustrations, and most of them are one woman. But this particular chapter has 5 women. And it's because the daughters of Zelophehad, which are really big here, Zelophehad, were 5 daughters that decided that the laws of inheritance in Israel were wrong. They didn't have brothers. They didn't have any male. And so the father had died, and they were giving the inheritance to the people of Israel in the promised land. And they were 5 women, and they were not going to get an inheritance. So I love the way that the chapter introduces itself. When you feel as if everything's stacked against you and there's no way you can beat the system, a team of sisters from the ancient world might have some advice for you. So I think this is going to be a very interesting program because the daughters of Zelophehad are going to do something that had never been done before. Whether you're a woman or whether you're a man, maybe you have you can't fight City Hall, I guess that's a sentence, but you might have gotten there where you said, what am I going to do now? And once again, we introduce Pastor Mike Tucker, who is with us today. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, and you?
I am doing very good. I'm very happy you are joining us because you always have so much to add to our study of the Bible. And today is going to be a very interesting one, as you can see, very colorful.
I noticed this is great.
I love that you're wearing a pink shirt because we have a colorful set today.
This is in honor of women everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
That's right.
Well, did you know the story of Zelophehad before we started doing radio?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Well, you're smarter than I am because...
Well, that goes without saying, does it not?
Now, you made me laugh from the bottom of my heart.
Okay.
Just kidding. He's quite smart, too. But no, the truth is I hadn't really studied this story before. And one day I went to a retreat for women pastors, and there was this professor, a biblical studies professor that had come from a university, and all of us that were there were either women pastors or women chaplains, and she talked about this story, and I had never realized that sometimes in the Bible, there came a time when somebody had to do what they had to do, and God said, yeah, let's listen to them. And today we're going to see
made an
this.
exception in the long-standing laws in order to accommodate a special situation.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It's interesting. And I think there's a lot of people, when I came into the ministry, my senior pastor was Smuts Marui, and you have heard of him?
Oh, I know him. He's a wonderful man.
Yeah. He had done a dissertation. It was a doctoral dissertation that was very interesting because it was saying, why do some people leave, some pastors leave the denomination and some stay? Those that are very focused in the gospel, why some leave and why some stay. And he made a doctoral dissertation out of that. And what he found out was that it wasn't what they believed, that what they believed was the same. So the only reason why some stayed is because they hadn't lost their hope that they could exert change in the system.
Right.
And the ones that left lost that hope.
Lost all hope of changing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a difficult topic, right?
Yeah.
Because how do we progress as a system, whether it's religious or any other, or workplace or school, if there's not going to be any change ever?
And for these women to assume that they could make a change in a totally male-dominated society. I mean, totally, because women were considered to be little more than possessions.
Exactly, property.
For them to assume that they could make a change is just unbelievable.
Unbelievable. That's why I love this story, and actually...
They had to be young and idealistic, otherwise they wouldn't have done this.
Yes, and this is why we did this whole thing for you, because we want you to imagine, of course, this is not the way it looked, I'm sure, but...
How did you think?
Yeah. But every day they would line up people of Israel to talk to Moses about important things. And one day, the picture looked completely different because there were 5 sisters in this whole line of people that were going to talk to Moses that came with a petition. So we have called this program the Petitioning Women, the daughters of Zelophehad. So let's go there. I can't wait, because this is going to be a program that will challenge me, and perhaps it will challenge the system, and perhaps it will challenge some of our audience, whether you're a man or a woman and you have hit one of those, glass ceilings and you don't know what to do. Everything is against you. I have seen so many people give up in the last 2 years that I said, we got to do something about it. So,
absolutely. Sure.
So number 20, the book of Numbers, chapter 26, verse 33 says that there came a time when they were going to divide. Sometimes you just have windows of opportunity. This was a window. They were dividing the land.
Right.
So every family was getting a little portion.
Yeah.
Like, do you own a house?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually own a condo now.
Okay.
So not really a piece of land so much
a big
as,
one, because I heard you walk 5 to 7 miles a day.
Not in the condo, and so no, it's
You said,
not
when I'm home,
a big
walk
condo.
5 to 7 miles a day.
Yeah, not a big condo, but still we own.
It's easier because you travel so much.
But the interesting thing is that for Israel, land was not just about a real estate transaction.
Yes.
This is a part of your identity.
Yes.
With a
Your
people.
inheritance, who you were, where you're going to...
That's right. With your faith, it was all tied together because this land was sacred and this was your family. And so you wouldn't sell your land unless it was such dire emergency.
Yeah, exactly.
That you had no other option.
Exactly.
So to get land was key for these people.
Exactly. So we have a problem, and it says here... what the problem is, and we're going to read verse 33. And by the way, for all of you that are trying to get this name, is Zelophehad. Zelophehad is a person that died without male descendants. Okay, so this is what the problem is. Numbers 26:33.
Now Zelophehad, the son of Epher, had no sons, but only daughters. And the names of the daughters of Zelophehad were, and here we go with some more names.
Yes.
Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah.
And as a matter of fact, we're going to get those 5 names several times in the Bible because, usually in the Bible, we don't get a lot of women names.
No.
These 5 women, we get them a few times because they will do something very interesting. The land is being divided. They're fatherless, brotherless, husbandless, and landless. Okay?
They got nothing.
Yes. So many women or men maybe, they would sit down and cry their eyes out. How long do you cry until you give up on a situation?
But these women decided to take a different tact. They said, we can take positive action to correct a negative situation.
Isn't it interesting? Because how long do you try and realize you can't fight City Hall until you give up? Because I have friends that have given up.
Oh, yeah. People do give up. And sometimes you think, well, I don't know if I can blame you for giving up. But these women decided that, you know what, this is worth the effort. Not just for themselves, but perhaps for their father and his name and for that family. This is worth the effort for the future of this family.
Something amazing happens, and we're going to, of all the options they have, they could become victims, become bitter, become depressed.
Yeah.
I am glad I wasn't born during that time.
You would not have fit well.
Well, thank you. Thank you
would
so much.
not have fit
Thank
well.
you very
but
much.
You know what? These women realized that only men could own land, only men could receive an inheritance. So they've got to fight this.
This is what I was going to show you. See, this is
the
a deed. It's a very important deed for me because we just did it with my dad. My mom passed away some time ago. So he redid his trust.
Yes.
And now this is the deed of his house. He has a little house that will be my retirement. And so my name is on it because now I'm going to inherit that house.
So that's important to you.
It's important to me for many reasons. One is because it was my mom and my dad's.
Right.
Second, because it's going to be my retirement.
That's right. That's right.
But I can own land. I can own a house here at this time in society in this country. It can be in the name of a woman. It doesn't have to be a name, a man attached to it.
But in biblical times, that wasn't true. In fact, it's not been true in much of the world's history. Even Luther changed that for Germany.
Really?
Yes, because women could not inherit, but he helped change the law so that his wife could inherit his goods.
Wow.
And she ran most of his finances, and he changed laws to benefit women in Germany. So it's been even more recent than what you might think.
Wow, that's interesting. I heard
case.
that in some countries it's still the case today,
Yes.
and that was like, wow. But anyways, instead of deciding, okay, we're going to sit here bitter, crying, victimized, they get this courage that I think came from God because they decide to present their case to the leaders in front of God. And so this is where we start on Numbers chapter 27. We're going to go through verses 1 to 4.
Then the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Epher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, came near. And these are the names of his daughters.
Again, you get the 5 names.
The 5
this is
names
very
of these
interesting.
women. Yeah. In verse 2, it said, they stood before Moses, before Eleazar the priest, and before the leaders of all the congregation at the doorway of the tent of meeting, saying, our father died in the wilderness, yet he was not among the company of those who gathered themselves together against the Lord in the company of Korah. You remember the rebellion there. But he died in his own sin, and he had no sons. Why would the name of our father be withdrawn from among his family because he had no sons? Give us a possession among our father's brothers.
Okay, this is very interesting. This is why we made all of this. See, you remember that the Bible says that they used to bring their case to the tent of the meeting where it was something important. So I'm sure that these were long lines.
Yes,
so long
lines.
that at one point Moses' father-in-law said, you got to get other people to be on top of 50, 100, so that because...
This is too much for you, Moses.
Yes.
You can't handle all of this.
And you know how this feels because you and I counsel and sometimes, travel much. And you sometimes have a line that you're going, it's going to be midnight.
I can't handle this,
So every day they used to line up. There were special occasions. Eleazar and Moses would take their cases and then take it to the Lord. Sometimes I wish there was still
Urim and Thummim, the breastplate, so you can say yes or no from
yes,
God.
so you would know exactly what God is saying, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I wish we had that because we don't have it anymore. But anyways, so you have I imagine all these males in front of the tent of the meeting doing their case, the neighbors doing this, that other, the dog is barking too loud. I don't know what their cases were. And then in the middle of this whole line, you have this 5 colorful women.
Yes.
And they went to present it all together. They didn't say to one, you go.
You go. No, we're all together.
Yes, it's very interesting because I wonder how nervous were they?
Yeah.
How one of them must have been more outspoken than the others, maybe one more timid. Somehow all together in their sisterhood, they say, hey, let's go all together and present our case in front of God.
Now, you have to imagine that most of these people standing in line, almost all of them were men.
Yes, that's what
I
mean.
And so they stood out like a sore thumb, these women did.
That's why I have it
absolutely, they stood out like a sore thumb, and they had to fill out of places as well. And
Yes.
the men looking around them said, what are you doing?
What are you doing
Why
here?
are you here?
You know what? I have heard that many times myself.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing here? So here we have this unprecedented action that has not happened before and is in the presence of God. The tent that was where the presence of God would show up, and they are going, and I love this, and I want to talk to anybody that is in a situation like this. I know you can get desperate when things are not working out, but trust that God is working behind the scenes, because when you rebel and do crazy things, you don't get anywhere. Go to the appropriate channels. Go to the people that are appointed as leaders, and don't give up your case, but keep presenting it. But don't do crazy, rebellious things because you never get anywhere.
Yeah, and Matthew 18 gives us, a pattern for doing that as well. But basically, go to the appropriate place. Now, Moses was a godly man, and Moses took these women seriously.
Yes.
He could have dismissed them easily.
That's
but
right.
he did not. He was a godly man.
And that is a call to the leaders too, because
to listen.
To listen and talk to God and say, hey, do they have a case or not?
Regardless of gender, age, race.
Yeah, because this
listen.
is not just about women.
No.
Here in the United States, the African American movement, I was just reading about Dr. King yesterday, how he at one point told God, I can't fight this anymore, the civil rights thing, right? And that he felt God embracing him and said, stand for the right. Stand for the right no matter what the cost. And it cost him his life in the process, right? So let's see if we can see what happens. So they go, these 5 women.
Moses took it to the Lord.
Yes, so that is very important. Verse 5, Moses brought their case before the Lord.
Right.
Moses didn't say, hey, we never done it like this.
Yeah.
Please don't show up anymore.
Isn't that a wonderful phrase? We've never done it like that before. You've never heard that, have you? No one's ever said that to you? I'm sure this is the first time you've ever heard that phrase.
Well, Mike is alluding to sometime many years ago when we used to do radio together, and part of the hard part of changing something is when people say, we never done it like this.
That happens in organizations, it happens in broadcasts, it happens in churches, you name it.
And as you can imagine, Mike and I were not always following the ways that things had always been done.
No.
Yeah, because
it's a new audience, a new day. You have to change things.
Yes, we do different things. Even since we used to be in the radio together, things have changed. So now we have venues. You are on television. You're on Roku. Those things didn't exist when we were doing.
Exist. Yeah.
That's how old you are. No,
I'm very old.
But really, every 2 years, things.
I had black and white television.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
not anymore. But
I will collect some
go
funds for you. Yeah. So here we have Moses brought their case before the Lord, and look what the Lord says. Verse 6.
Verse 6. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad are right in their statements.
Okay. Well, first of all, this blows my mind away because all the laws of inheritance had been given to Moses by God. Right?
Yes.
So here the daughters are saying, okay, we have a little thing here. My father doesn't have any sons. Why is his name going to be wiped out of the history of Israel? Yes. And so Moses said, okay, let me ask God. And God said, they're absolutely right.
They're right. That's an amazing thing to me that God did this. But what this also says to me is that the things that God did in the Old Testament took women from where they were and elevated them, but he wanted to elevate them even further.
Yeah.
But when they brought this case, he said, you know what, they're right. That's where we want to get.
Isn't it interesting?
That's where we
Because,
want to get.
see, a lot of people ask me these questions about the Old Testament. How come they had two wives? How come David had whatever? God worked in the culture where people were and
Here's where
always
you are.
elevated them one step up.
One step. Here's take a
And
step.
from here, one step up. And from there, one step up.
They've only gotten to here, but these daughters wanted up here, and God said, that's where we're going. Let's go there anyway.
Isn't it interesting?
It's where we need to get.
Wow. So let's read verse 6 and 7.
All right. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad, thank you, are right in their statements. You shall surely give them a hereditary possession among their father's brothers, and you shall transfer the inheritance of their father to them.
Which was crazy. You're going to give them
Never
the grand deed to the land. This has never happened before.
But these women are going to have this.
Yes, and then verse 8, farther, you shall speak to the sons of Israel, saying, if a man dies and has no son, then you shall transfer his inheritance to his daughter. And then the whole law was changed from that day forward. Verse 11, if his father has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to his nearest relative, etc., etc. And this shall be a statutory ordinance to the sons of Israel, just as the Lord commanded Moses. And from there on, the laws were changed.
There's change. These women changed the laws of Israel, and they had the endorsement of God doing it. He said, they're right, let's change. Let's do it over here.
Let me tell you, I got some principles out of this over the years. First, trust God to do justice because he works behind the scenes. He knows our culture. He knows our weaknesses. But still, don't be afraid to speak up.
That's right.
You know, because all the movements that there have been in history, even women's right to vote.
Yes.
Right? I mean, again, African-American rights. All kinds of things. I mean, young versus old, all kinds of things.
What we're talking about here are the rights of the weak, those that were deemed weak by a particular society.
But, yes.
African Americans were marginalized, women were marginalized, and they were weak. And God is the champion of the weak. He's the champion of the marginalized.
Absolutely.
And so he's saying, don't lord it over these people. Let's give them a fair share, a fair shake as well.
Yeah, I think, so I'm going to give 4 principles that I got out of this. One is trust God, that he is working behind the scenes. Second is, don't be afraid to speak up.
Right.
Even when you're criticized, look for the appropriate channels. Number 3, look for a support system.
Yes.
Here they were all together, the sisterhood, they all stood up.
That's all they had, so they came together.
Yes.
That's their support.
And 4th is identify the change agents and go to those people. They approach Moses, they approach Eleazar, they approach God. They didn't go talking to the whole, like Lucifer did in heaven.
Yeah, you're gossiping over here.
Gossiping over here, gossiping over here.
That doesn't help anything. Go to the person who can make a difference.
Exactly. And if it didn't work this time, go again, go again, and go again. Because when you are in the presence of God and you're saying, look, we are in the image of God too. I'm not less than you because I'm a woman or because I'm younger, even though you're wiser.
Yeah, I'm much wiser.
Yes. So I'm not less than you. And so a lot of people in this society, I work with a lot of people, young adults, who have been told they're less than other people, whether it's IQ, whether it's social
experience or whatever else it may happen.
And they have believed it. So they don't live up to the purpose that God had for them because they believe they should be caterpillars and God made them to be butterflies.
Absolutely.
And so they are just crawling instead of flying. So how do you break out of that?
And sometimes this is made even worse in a system, a religious system, because you feel that the rules of the religion are the voice of God, and God doesn't change. Well, you know what we saw here is that God doesn't change principles. He may change the details and approaches,
yes, exactly.
but he doesn't change principles. But here, asking God to change something worked.
Yeah, isn't it interesting?
It worked.
See, I love that I started with the Liberty Bell, how there were laws of redemption, how the inheritance and all of that. And we always, the law went back to the original families. But I never thought that, that was if they had men. No, but from there on, they would go back even to women. And the women, you can read this in Numbers 36, they agreed to marry men of the same tribe so that the land would never leave
stay in that same
Manasseh
tribe.
Was the tribe, right? So the message is don't despair, don't leave, don't give up, Because the bottom line is we do already have an inheritance.
Yes, we do.
And we're going to read about it because see, sometimes we get so caught up with the things of this world that we forget that we already have an inheritance that nobody's ever going to take away from us. And that's in 1 Peter. We're going to go all the way to the back of the New Testament. As a matter of fact, Revelation also talks about it. But 1 Peter has a beautiful beginning. When he's writing this, he says, before we talk about anything, in his letter, he says, let me remind you that you already have an inheritance, no matter what is happening in your life. Chapter 1 of 1 Peter, verses 3 and 4.
Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who according to his great mercy has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to obtain an inheritance which is imperishable and undefiled and will not fade away, reserved in heaven for you.
See, that's why you don't give up. You don't give up because the system is all working perfectly, or because everybody is right on, or because all the leaders act accordingly, or whatever. You don't give up because you already have an outcome that is a cure. You have an inheritance in heaven, which is imperishable, undefiled, will not fade away, and is guaranteed because of the death of Christ.
You may not see justice in this lifetime, and many people have died without justice. Many people have died without a change, but they didn't give up the fight. And recognizing ultimately things are going to be made right in heaven. But if something is right, it's right, and you continue to fight until you can't fight anymore. Yeah. But you recognize if you don't win it here, there's a victory already sealed for you. One day things will be made right.
That's the point.
Your inheritance is secure.
Thank you for being with us, Mike. You are always so insightful. Thank you so much for being, and you're going to be in all the programs of this series with us. So.
Absolutely.
And following what Mike just said, I want to go back to the cross because I want to remind you what it's all about. See, a lot of people give up in this world because they say, I'm not getting anywhere. You can't fight City Hall. Well, the truth is, at the cross, you already got a grand deed. I love that because, when everything else is failing in my life, sometimes you feel like everything is falling apart. Trust God to be your rock. You already have a grand deed at the cross. You were given an inheritance, and that inheritance is eternal life. And I love the way that Revelation ends in chapter 21. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The previous earth and previous heaven have passed away. So now everything is made new. So when you're having to fight systems here in this world, remember that there's one thing that is a guarantee. And the New Testament says that the Holy Spirit constantly testifies to your spirit that you already have an inheritance so that you wouldn't give up. Because otherwise, every time that we have a difficulty or we feel that we have hit a glass ceiling or that we can't fight City Hall, we would give up, we would rebel, we would jump from a bridge, we would become depressed or bitter or whatever it may be. Don't give up because you already know the outcome. And the outcome is Jesus wins. He already won at the cross. He gave you an inheritance. So in his name, do the right thing, but don't let it get to you because Jesus wins.